This conference will now be recorded.
So yesterday we have started with developing this OData services. So as part of that, we have used the T code SCGW, NetWeaver Gateway Service Builder, and we created one project here. What is that project? ZEPM is a project. As part of this project, we have created one entity. Entity name is product. Along with the entity set also got created. The naming convention for entity set is what entity type suffixed with what set. Okay, this is a naming convention for entity set. And as part of this entity, we have created some three properties manually: product ID, name, and what description. So why we created these three properties is our agenda was what to query for what product details. So for that, we need to call a function module. So if you go to the this thing, function builder, we have the function model dappy underscore epm underscore product underscore get underscore list. Okay, so as part of this function module, it is returning what one internal table. Okay, which is having the header data. So this internal table structure, it has got some 18 fields. Since I'm interested to read only three fields like product id, name, and description, all these three fields are what character. So because of this function model, we have created the entity with how many properties? Three properties: product ID, name, and what? Description. Then after this, what we have done? We have generated the runtime artifacts. So whenever we generate the runtime artifacts, yeah, as before that, as part of the entity set, what happens? Some five stubs gets created. They are called as what? Stubs. Okay, these stubs has to be implemented to perform what crude operations. Then we have generated the runtime artifacts. Okay, they are called as what runtime artifacts. Then we have implemented the stub. Which stub we have implemented as part of service implementation? Get entity set is the stub we have implemented. The purpose of this stub is to query for what multiple records. So we have done the implementation by mapping it to what? By mapping it to what? A function model. Mappy underscore EPM underscore product underscore get underscore list. So as part of this mapping, we have mapped the parameters of what? Function model with the entities. Okay, we have mapped the parameters of the function with the entity set properties. Done. Then after that, we have regenerated the runtime artifacts and we have registered the service and maintained the service. So how to maintain the service? Once what service is implemented, and I click on this, choose what maintain. Okay, so launch the gateway client. Click on this button, gateway client. So what is the first thing you have to do whenever the OData service is available? The first thing we have to do is we have to get the information about the service. Information of the service means what are the entities in that service, what are the properties in that entity, what are the data types of those entity, what are the data types of those properties, what is the entity set name, what is the association name, all those information you have to get, and that is done by using the query option of dollar metadata. So this is my service URL. What you have to do? We have to use a query option called as a dollar metadata, or we call it as what OData capability. So I'll choose what dollar metadata. When I click on execute, it is going to display me the information related to your service. Okay, so as part of this information, we understood that we have an entity set. What is the entity set name here? Product set. So how do we query for multiple records now? As part of this URL, you have to provide the entity set name. So if you on the application toolbar, if you click on the button entity sets, it will display the list of entity sets available in our what current service. So if you click on this, we have only one entity set, which is product set, right? So you have to give the URL like this slash product set, and you have to choose the HTTP method what get. When I execute, It is going to return me what? List of what? Product details. In the HTTP response section, it is going to display me the list of what? Product details. So if you observe here, I got the list of what? The product details. Okay. Now let me randomly take one product. What is the key property in my entity? Product ID. So one of the product ID is what? HT-4731. So what I'll do as part of my URL, I'll say here I'll say HT hyphen what 4731 HT hyphen 4731. So as part of the URL in the parentheses you provide the value for what key property. Okay, then choose the HTTP method get. When I execute this, it will try to execute the stub called as get entity which you are not implemented. So when I execute, I got an error here, something 501. It is saying that the method product set underscore get underscore entity is not implemented. Understood? So whenever we give the query like this value will be considered for what key property. It will invoke the stub what get entity. That stub will internally tries to call the method what product set underscore get underscore entity. It is saying that they are not implemented. So what is the next agenda now? We are able to query what multiple records. Now I should be able to query for what single record. So what is the process now? Go back to your service implementation. So under service implementation, yesterday we implemented the stub what get entity set. This is for querying for what more than one record. Now if you want to query for single record, we have to go for what implementing the stub called as what get entity. Okay. So here also I want to implement this by mapping it to what a function model. So I should know what is the function model which we have to map so that it will return the specific product detail. So for returning multiple product details, we use the function model of get underscore list. Similarly, for querying for single product details, we have one function model bappy underscore EPM underscore product underscore get detail. So if I display this, right? So get detailed data for a specific product. It is going to return the detailed data for a specific product. What is the before using any function module? We have to check the signature of the function module. So if you see the signature here, signature in the sense parameters, if you go to the import section, we have one mandatory parameter. Okay, we have a mandatory parameter product ID. Okay, so this is a mandatory parameter product ID. One second. Yeah, so this is the mandatory parameter product ID. What is this type here? It is referring to what BAPI underscore EPM underscore product ID. When I double click on this, yeah, it is referring to a structure, and this structure contains what one field what product ID, character of what 10. So it is referring to what product ID, which is character of 10. What does it do? Yeah, it is returning me a work area. It is returning me the header data in the form of work area. So if I double click on this, yeah, it is going to return me what 18 fields. So the signature of this function model is it takes the product ID as input. Okay, it takes a product ID as input and returns the header data of that particular product. So let me try to test it here. I'll execute this. I need to give the product ID. So let me click on this. I'll give the product ID as something HT-4731. HT-4731. Done. So this is the product ID. I'll try to execute this. Yeah, it is returning me the header data related to the what product. So if I click on this, I got the header data related to the product. Product ID I got the name, then description like that. We have many fields. Okay, we have many fields done. So let me try to implement this. So I understood the signature of that function model. So based on that understanding, let us implement the stub called as what get entity. So how do we implement? I can do it in two ways. One is by using mapping, and another is by using what? Writing the code manually. As of now, I'll go for a mapping only. So I'll right click on the stub what? Get entity. Right click on the stub get entity. Okay, it is in disabled mode. I'll switch to what? Editable mode. It is in editable mode now. Done. Right click on this and say what? Map to what? Data source. Right click on the stub get entity. Map to data source. Right. So local or remote. It is asking whether the function model is available local in the same server or whether it is a remote function model. It is available in the same server. So let it be local. Type, I'll choose what? Remote function call. Okay, type is remote function call. What is the function model I need to invoke? DAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore get details. So let me copy this. Then this is the name of the function model. Continue. Right. So you can see here, these are the entities, these are the properties in my entity. And right hand side you can see it is showing the parameters of the function model. So I need to map it now. So what is that function model is going to do? It takes a product ID as what? Input. It takes a product ID as input and returns me what? Returns me the header data. So see here. So the signature of this function only is it takes a product ID. So you can observe here under this product ID, we have a product ID field. I'll map this to the first entity because you have to pass what product ID. So what is the import parameter in the function model? The import parameter in the function model is product ID. So let me just choose this, map it here. Done. Then it is going to return me what? It is going to return me the header data. So I want the name and description. So what is the parameter which is holding that header data? This is the parameter. So to expand this, it contains some 18 fields. We are concerned only with two fields, name and what? Description. So I'll just choose this. Okay. Then this is your description. I'll just mark this. Done. Okay. So the mapping has been done. Next here also let me save it. Check for the syntax error. No errors. Since we have done the mapping, we have to regenerate the runtime objects so that the runtime artifacts gets adjusted. Let me regenerate the runtime artifacts. I mean to say runtime objects. Then it has been checked here. Yeah. So they are readjusted, they are generated successfully. Now I need to maintain it. So how do you maintain it? So I'll just right click on my server ID. I click maintain, right? Gateway client, launch the tool gateway client. Done. So what you have to do now? Entity set and product set. So what is the signature of my URL now? I'm not passing any parameters. Since I'm not passing any input parameters, SAP will have the intelligence which stub it has to execute. What is the stub it will execute now? Get entity set. So when I execute, it is going to execute that stub internally, which is responsible for returning the list of what? Products. You can see it. It is returning the list of what? All the products. So I got all the products done. So let me try to give one parameter. What is the product ID also? I'll give UI hyphen 1022. So what I'm doing here, as part of my request URL, as part of my request URL or URI, okay, uniform resource indicator, uniform resource locator. So as part of my URL, in the parentheses, I'm giving a value. This is nothing but input value. So this value will be considered for what? Key property. What is the key property in my entity? Product ID. So when I try to execute this, it will execute which step at the background? Get entity. So let me execute. Done. So earlier I got the error. Now you can see what is saying. Let's say I got the data UI for 1022. I got the name and what? Description. I got only what? Details of what? A specific product. So what I'm trying to say is depending on the signature we use, depending on the parameters we pass, the tool will have the intelligence. The tool will have the intelligence which stub it has to execute at the background. Okay, done. So we are able to read what multiple records. We are able to read what single record by implementing these two steps. Similarly, we can implement what create, delete, and what update. Anyhow, we'll be seeing that going forward. Now, what I'll do now is let me go for implementing the same thing. Yeah, we have not yet discussed Abhishek. Runtime objects means these are all called as runtime objects. As of now, we are not using them explicitly. They get generated automatically. They get generated automatically whenever we click on this particular button. We are not using this as of now because we are going for implementation by what? Mapping based. Okay, what is the purpose of these classes? We'll understand when we go for code based implementation. So for the timing, just understand that whenever we create an entity with properties and entity set, and when we click on this button, okay, it will generate what? Runtime object. So what is the purpose of this is yesterday, I don't know whether you are referred or not. I gave one diagram. Let me try to open that. 1 second. Yeah, so as I told you, every entity set will have what? Some five steps. Create the agenda of this OData service is what? To perform what? Crude operations. To deal with the database for performing the DB operations, database operations. So these are the five steps. These stubs will internally invoke these methods. These methods are part of which class? This data provider class and data provider extension class. As of now, explicitly we are not using these particular classes and methods. Just we are what? Implementing these stubs, but these stubs internally calls what? These methods. These methods are part of what? This data provider class and data provider extension class. So if you see these runtime objects, we have what? DPC class, data provider class and data provider extension class. As part of these classes only, those methods will be available. As of now, we are not implementing these methods explicitly. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I want to what? Develop an OData service. Try to understand. I want to develop an OData service. Okay. For what? To perform what? Or what is the purpose of auditor service? To perform what? Crude operations. Okay. So related to this EPM, what? Enterprise procurement model, I want to perform the crude operation. So what is my requirement here? But I want to do it by using what? Code based. So far we are doing what? Mapping based. As I told you yesterday, we cannot achieve all the requirements using what? Mapping. Most of the time we'll go for what? Code based only. Right. So my requirement is I should able to return what? List of products. Okay. Then I should able to return what? To return what? Specific product details. To return specific product details based on what? Given product ID. Okay. Then What else? I should be able to create what? A new product. Okay, then I should be able to what? Delete the existing product. Okay, then what else? To update the what? Existing product details. So these are the 5 operations I want to implement using what? Code based. Okay, so I'll start from the scratch. Those who missed yesterday's class, try to understand. So what is my agenda, overall agenda now? I need to develop the OData service to perform this particular 5 operations. Okay, so what are the corresponding function models for these things? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore get list. Okay, get list is going to return what? Multiple product details. It is going to return the list of what? Product details. Okay, this is get list. Then for reading specific product details, we use a function model get underscore detail. Then for deleting a product, I'll use a function model BAPI underscore EPM product delete. Okay. Then for creation, we use what? Create. Okay. Like this, we have what? All the function models. For update, I'll use what? This particular update function model. Not there. Huh? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product for yeah, not update, change. BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore change. These are the 5 function models I have to use. Okay, so try to understand. If you take this function model get list, it is going to return me a list of what product details in the form of what internal table. We need to decide how many fields you want to read. Okay, suppose in this case I want to read only what some 5 fields, like I want to go for product id, type code, category, name, and what? Description. I want to read only the first 5 fields: product id, type code, category, name, and what? Description. So keeping this in mind, so I'm starting from the scratch. Those who missed yesterday, just try to what? Focus on this. So what is the first step you have to do? We need to create the project. Where do we do it? We have to go to a tool called as NetWeaver Gateway Service Builder, SCGW. Done. Okay. So then what is the agenda here? You have to create the entity set, properties, all those things. Where do we create them? As part of a data model. Where is the data model available? As part of a project. Okay. So just click on this create button on the application toolbar. Okay, click on the create button application toolbar. Provide the project name. You can give any name. I'll give it as ZEPM underscore project. Some name I'll give. Okay. I didn't get your question, Abhishek. Incoming data means here OData service is responsible only for what? Performing what? Crude operations. Yeah, that validation, everything we can do it in the code base. You understand. Let me complete this. Yeah, you will understand. Let me finish this. You'll understand it. So I'll give the project name as ZEPM underscore what project. Let me give the description. I'll give the description as 1 second. Let me give the description as something code based implementation. I'll save it in the local object. Done. So you can see here, as part of your project, as part of the project, we have the data model, service implementation, runtime artifact. So if you see here, Service implementation, you don't have any stubs here as of now. In the runtime artifacts also, we don't have any runtime objects. Both are blank at this stage. Then what you have to do, we have to create the what entity type. Where do we create? As part of data model? If we expand this, we have entity type, association, entity set. All are blank. So first I need to create the entity type. So how do I create? I'll right click on the entity type. As I told, entity type is like a structure, like a work area, which is a collection of what fields. Here is a collection of what properties. Right click on entity type. I'll say create. Right, entity type name. I'll give the entity type name as, you can give any name. Let me give it as something of product. Since I'm dealing with the product, I'm giving a meaningful name like what product. Then as part of this entity set only, let me create the entity set. So I'll just select the checkbox, create the related entity set. So why we have to create the entity set? Whatever the implementation that we have to do, that implementation should be done on top of what stubs. Those stubs will be available as part of what entity set. So compulsory we require what entity set. Okay, so create the related entity set. What is the naming convention here? Naming convention is what? Entity type suffixed with what? Set. Entity type suffixed with set. Done. I'll click on continue. Done. You can see here, the moment the entity type is created, you can observe here under service implementation, we have the entity set. Under this entity set, we have how many stubs? 5 stubs. They are called what stubs. Done. What is the next job now? Entity is ready. Entity, the collection of what properties. I need to create what properties. So I'll just expand this entity. We have properties and navigation properties. Again, we don't know what is navigation property at this stage. The purpose of navigation property is to navigate from one entity to another entity. Going forward, we'll be having what multiple entities in a project. Okay, you'll have multiple dependent entities. I should be able to navigate from one entity to another entity, just like your sales order header data, sales order item data, purchase document header data, purchase document item data. So whenever you have any related information, we'll go for what multiple entities. So as of now, we are working only with what single entity. So I'll double click on the properties. Here we need to create the property. So I have decided to create how many properties? 5 properties. I'll just click on this append row. 5 rows will be created, 5 blank rows will be created. What are the properties you want to create? What are the names here? Product underscore ID, type underscore code, category, name and description. All these fields are what? Character types. All these fields are character types. Done. So what I'll do here is, I'll give the name of the product, name of the properties. Let me give the name as product ID. What is the name of the field in the function module? Product underscore ID. I can give the same name or I can give any names. Okay. So product ID. Let me give the type as what? They are character fields. No? So here I have to choose what? EDM dot what? String. EDM dot string. We'll be seeing the other data types also. As of now, I'm going for what? EDM dot string. Fixed or variable length character data. So I'll go for EDM.string. Done. Then what is the next field you want? Type code. Sorry, type code. This also I'll give it as what? EDM dot what? String. Then what else? Let me go for category. EDM dot string. Then I'll go for the next field what? Name. I'll give it as EDM dot string. Then what else? Description. Description. I'll give it as what? EDM dot what? String. Done. Okay. Now let me try to do the syntax check. When I save it, check for the syntax errors. Yeah, I got an error. Entity type product must define what? At least one key property. As I told you yesterday, you should have minimum what? One key property. So let me make product ID as what? key property. I can make any of the field as what key property, but there should be a logical sense for that. Okay, we are dealing with the product details. So how do you identify each product uniquely based on the product ID only? Na? That's why I'm giving what product ID as what key property. Okay, so I'll give product ID as key property. Done. Okay, let me check for the syntax error. Yeah, has been checked. No errors were found. What is the next step you have to do? So what we have done so far, we have created the entity type. In that entity type, I created 5 properties. I have done the syntax check, no errors. Then you can see runtime artifacts is still blank. What you have to do now? We have to generate the runtime artifacts. So click on what? Generate runtime objects. It will generate all the runtime artifacts, nothing but runtime objects. So these are the runtime objects: model provider class, model provider extension class, data provider class, data provider extension class, model name, service name. All this together, we call it as what? Runtime objects or runtime artifacts. Okay, just continue. I'll save it in the local object. Right. So runtime objects are successfully generated. What is the next step now? So they are generated successfully. The next step is what? You have to implement your service. How do we implement here? As part of what? Service implementation, we have what? 5 steps. Okay. I want to implement this particular step for the time being. Get entity set. What is the purpose of that? This is for reading what? More than one record. This is for querying multiple records. So yesterday what you have done as part of service implementation under your entity set, we right clicked on this and we went for what? Map to what? Data source. It is working fine. Now I want to implement the same thing by using what? Code based. Okay, so let's see how to implement. Try to focus here. What is the purpose of this step? It is responsible for what? Responsible for returning what? Multiple records. So let me right click on this. Choose what? Go to what? ABAP Workbench. Go to ABAP Workbench. See where it takes the control. When I say go to ABAP Workbench, what is saying here? The operation product set underscore get underscore entity set has not yet been implemented. So if you observe the yesterday's thing, where is that? Yeah, they are my steps. Okay, so what is the step we are trying to implement here? Get entity set is a step we are trying to implement. This stub is associated with a method. What is that method name? See, entity set underscore get underscore what? Entity set. Okay, what is the name of our entity set in this context? Product set. Product set underscore get underscore entity set. So what I mean to say is every stub will be associated with a method. Those methods are available as part of which class? Data provider class. They are available as part of data provider class and they get inherited. They get inherited to another class called as what? Data provider extension class. They get inherited to data provider. Same methods gets inherited here. So if you observe here, what is saying here? Operation means that's what the method. Product set underscore get underscore entity set is not yet been implemented. So when I continue, good. See what is happening. When I say continue, it is taking the control to which class? Data provider extension class. It is taking the control to data provider extension class. If you see the properties of this class, this data provider extension class is a public class which is inherited from the superclass what? Data provider class. So the base class is data provider class. The subclass is what? Data provider extension class. So it is taking the control to this particular method. So how do we implement this method here? What is the method I need to implement? See, there are many methods. Again, in the next 25 days to 1 month, as and when required, we'll be seeing the appropriate method. So let us not focus on each and every method at this stage. When I scroll down, Our consent method is now what now? Get underscore, yeah, this is the consent method. Product set underscore, yeah, what is that method? Product set underscore get underscore what? Entity set. This is the method which we need to implement. Make clear? This is a method which we need to implement. It's a protected method, it seems. Okay. So I need to implement. So how do you implement the method? Let me try to double click on this. We are in which class now? Data product extension class. I'll try to double click on this method. It is saying that the method product set underscore get underscore entity set is implemented in its superclass. It is implemented in the superclass. What is the superclass here? Data product class. So when I continue, see what happens. It is taking the control to what? Data product class. Already there is some implementation available in that method. We need not understand what they are implemented, not required. Okay. Already SAP has done some implementation. Okay. Without disturbing this implementation, I need to provide what? Additional logic. So I need to redefine this particular method. This method got inherited to which class? Data product extension class. So what you have to do now, you have to redefine this method. So I'll put the cursor in this method. I'll put the cursor in this method. You can see on the top right hand corner we have the it is in disable mode because the class is in display mode. Let me switch to what? Editable mode. I'll switch to editable mode. Change mode. Done. Put the cursor in this method. Understood? Click on what? Redefine method. Already there is implementation in the superclass. Okay, without disturbing that, I need to re-implement it, redefine that. So put the cursor, click on what? Redefine button. So when you click on redefine, yeah, you can see here. This is the method template. This is a method template, and this method has got some signature. It has got some parameters. Okay, let me just close the signature. So again, if you go back to object-oriented principles, whenever we redefine the superclass method, whenever we redefine the superclass method, it is recommended to call the superclass implementation also, and it is done by using what keyword? Super keyword. Okay. Whenever we redefine any method, it is always recommended to call the superclass functionality also, and that is done by using what? Super keyword. So that's what they have commented here. If you want, you can call it, otherwise you can ignore it for the time being. So I'm not disturbing that. So what I have to do now, I have to write the implementation now. What is the logic I have to write here? What is the logic I have to write? I need to return what? I need to return, this method has to return what? List of what? Product details. Okay, so first of all, you have to fetch the product details now. If you fetch the product details only, I can return it. Okay, so what I'll do now first is, here I'll write the logic. What is that? Get the list of what? Products. Get the list of products. I'll get the list of products. Already we know what is the function model you have to call for getting the list of products. BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore what? Get underscore what? List. Get underscore list. What is the signature of this function model? It is having many internal table parameters. One of them, all these parameters are what? Optional. One of the parameters what? Header data. It is of type what? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore header. So this is the internal table parameter which is going to hold the product detail. So what I will do here, let me declare the internal table based on this. Click Control C. Understood. I'm interested to receive this product details. That's the reason. Let me declare the internal table. So also data T underscore product T underscore product underscore header. Okay. Type table of what is that work area? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore header. Now what you have to do, you have to call the function model now. So I'll go to pattern. What is the function model? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore get underscore what? Get underscore what? List. Okay, I'm calling the function model. So when I call the function model using the pattern, the signature is generated. I'm interested in all the rows, so tables, header data. I'm not interested in other parameters, then leave it. Header data is equal to what is the internal table? T underscore what? Product underscore what? Header. So this is the internal table. This is the internal table which is holding the list of what? Product details. Am I clear? So I need to return this data. I need to return this data so that it will be displayed in my HTTP response. So we need to check what is the parameter, to which we have to do the mapping. So what I'll do is, if you see the signature of this method, it has got many parameters here. It has got many parameters. One of the parameter is, see here, if you scroll down, one of the parameter is what? There is a exporting parameter, et underscore what? Entity set. This is the exporting parameter. Et underscore entity set type. See here, they are referring to what? They are referring to what class? Model provider class. They are referring to what? Model provider class. In that class, they are referring to a declaration called as what? TT underscore product. Okay, so I don't know whether this is a field, whether this is a work area, whether this is an internal table. Let me try to double click on this. So if you have TT, you have to understand that it's table type only, but still let us have the confirmation. I'll double click on this. When I double click on this, it takes the control to my model provider class. In my model provider class, you can see there is a types declaration. What is that? TT underscore product it seems. Okay, there is one types declaration TT underscore product. Let me check the structure of this. When I click on this button, good. TT underscore product is type standard table of. Standard table, nothing but internal table. Na? It is an internal table of what structure? TS underscore product. What is this TS underscore product? It contains 5 fields: product ID, type code, category, name, and what? Description. So, what you have to understand is, depending on the entity you have created, there are some corresponding declarations made by SAP as part of which class? Model provider class. I repeat once again. I have created an entity called as what? Product, with how many properties? 5 properties. Based on that entity, SAP will automatically provide some declarations as part of which class? Model provider class. What kind of declarations? You'll have one work area and you'll have what? Internal table. Understood? So the purpose of model provider class is, depending on your entity structure, SAP will provide some corresponding declarations like work areas and what? Internal table. So I understand that this TT underscore product is what? It's an internal table which is having how many fields? 5 fields. What are those 5 fields? Nothing but your entity properties. What are they? Product ID, type code, category, name, and what? Description. So I repeat once again, what we are trying to do here is, the purpose of this method is what? It has to return me what? List of what? Product details. So how do we fetch the list of product details? By calling so and so function model. So I got the list of product details inside this internal table. I cannot return this as it is. So I need to check what is the parameter, of the method which is going to hold that particular return values. So if you see the signature, there is a parameter. There are many parameters. Again, please don't focus on this thing. We'll be discussing each and every parameter one by one as and when required. Okay, so if you scroll down, there is an exporting parameter et underscore entity set, which is of type internal table. Now how can you say this internal table? Because it is referring to this declaration tt underscore product, which itself is what? Internal table with how many properties, how many fields? 5 fields. So I need to map my return data to this particular parameter. But are they both are compatible? No. If you see here, this is having how many fields? Only 5 fields. But if you see T underscore product underscore header, it is an internal table of type what? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore what? Header. This EPM underscore product underscore header has got how many fields? 18 fields. 18 fields. Our return internal table contains only what? 5 fields, because my entity contains only 5 properties. But this is having what? 18 fields. And even the field names are also not same. Here it is product underscore ID, type underscore code. But in our case, it is only product ID and what? Type code. So both are not compatible. If both are compatible, if both are compatible, simply I would have said what? Et underscore entity set is equal to what? T underscore product underscore header. Understood? If both are compatible, I would have said like this, but they are not compatible. So what I'll do now, here I'll say if general ABAP logic, if T underscore product underscore header is not blank, if it is not initial, what I have to do here, I need to map the retrieved what product details. I need to map the retrieved product details to the corresponding internal table, to the corresponding return internal table. What is the return internal table here? ETN. How can you say this is return? Because it is what? Exporting. Exporting nothing but what? Returning. So I need to map the data to this internal table. So how do you add the data to the internal table? I require a work area. Na? Let me declare the work area. I'll say data w underscore entity set like line of what is that? Et underscore what? Entity set like line of et underscore entity set. Then this is an internal table. I require work area here. So I'll say w underscore product underscore header. Okay, like line of what is the internal table that t underscore product underscore header. I got the data into this internal table. Done. Okay, so I dictate both the work areas and general ABAP logic. What is that? I will loop my internal table. Loop at t underscore product underscore header into what is the work area declared? W underscore product underscore header and loop. I need to append it to this internal table. No? What is the work area declared? W underscore entity set. So I'll say clear W underscore entity set. W underscore entity set hyphen. What are the fields in my return type here? Product ID, type code, category, name, and what description. So I'll say product ID is equal to, yeah, what is that? W underscore product underscore header hyphen. What are the fields in this? Product underscore ID, type underscore code, category, name, and what description. So I'll say product underscore ID. Repeat this process for all the 5 fields. The next field in my entity is what? Type code. Here it is what? Type underscore code. I cannot say move corresponding also because the field names are not same. Okay, type code. Done. Then here it is category. Then the next field is name. Here also it's name. Then we have what? Description. Here also it is what? Description. Done. Okay, so my work area is ready. Then I'll say append W underscore entity set to what is my internal table, return internal table here, ET underscore entity set. ET underscore entity set. Done. End loop, end if, end method. That's all. Let me save it. Check for the syntax error. I don't have any errors. Let me activate this. I'm activating that. So it's a very simple logic here. What we have done is we have retrieved the product details by calling one of the function module. Okay, one of the function module. Then I got the data into the internal table. I need to map this internal table data to the return internal table. My return internal table is having only 5 fields, but this is having what some 18 fields. So they are not type compatible. So I need to manually assign the data to my internal table. I've done it. Okay, so let me just go back, activate everything. So since we have redefined, the color has been changed here. The method has been re-implemented. It's activated. Data provider extension class is activated. Done. Then again here also what you have to do? Again regenerate the runtime artifacts. Regenerate the runtime artifacts. Okay, I'll do one thing. Let me try to put the breakpoint. I'll put the breakpoint in that method. So what is that class? Data provider extension class. Right? This is a data provider extension class. This is the method. I'll put the breakpoint in that. Done. So we have done the implementation of only what? One step. Okay, then what you have to do? We need to register your OData service with the client, with the gateway client. How do you register? This registration is only what? One time job. Right? So I'll right click on this what server ID, also what register. Right? You wish to continue, yes. Right? This is my service name underscore SRV. So I'll say it in the local object. Continue. So your service will be registered with the gateway client. Then we need to maintain it. So I'll right click on this. I'll say maintain. Right. This is a service which is selected by default. I'll click on what gateway client. Done. Okay. So what is the first thing we have to do? Anyhow, we know the entity name, entity set, all those things, but as a general practice, okay, as a general practice, what we have to do, we have to collect the information about the service. How to collect the inference service? By using the query option what? Dollar metadata. So this is my service URL. If you click on this add URI option, I'll choose what dollar metadata. When I execute, it is going to return me the what information related to your service. What is the entity name? What is the key property? What are the other properties? What are the data types? All those things. Okay, done. Then I'll choose entity set. Now I'm trying to maintain. I'll choose product set. Okay, I'm not passing any parameters now. Since I'm not passing any parameters, it will execute the stub what get entity set, get entity set, and that get entity set will try to call which method? Entity set underscore get underscore entity set, which are redefined now. So let's see whether it'll stop there or not. I'll click on execute button. What is the HTTP method here? Get. Get is for what? Reading. There are other HTTP method also will be using that. I'll execute. Yeah, I got the data. It is not stopping there. And I got the list of products. Yeah, I got the list of what product. Each product contains what? 5 fields. It is not stopping the debugging. 1 second. I'll go to runtime artifacts, data product extension class only. In this class, what is the method? Product set underscore get underscore entity set. I'll double click on this. I'm putting the external breakpoint. Right, I'll choose maintain. Gateway client, entity sets, product set, execute this. Yeah, it is stopping now. So this is my what internal table which has got 0 entries. When I call that function module, yeah, I got how many entries? 118 records I got. Okay, I got 118 records, but each record contains what? Around 18 fields. Okay, but we have to map only what? 5 fields: product underscore ID, type underscore code, category, name, and what? Description. That's why I'm just looping this internal table and I'm mapping it to my final internal table et underscore what? Entity set. Okay, so let me say F8. I got the response. Understood. I got the data. So what you have to understand is we are writing the code manually, and for retrieving the data, we are calling the function module. We are calling the BAPI function module. I can call the BAPI function module, or I can write a select query manually. Okay, I can use joins in that. Okay, or I can call some other method. Understood? I can write any kind of what business logic. I can write any kind of business logic. Then what are the data you want to return? You need to map the data to the final return internal table. So in this case, what is the final return internal table? Et underscore entity set. So is it clear? Any questions, please ask me. Any questions? Yeah, Abhishek, you got the answer now? How to validate the product type means as of now we are not getting it for a particular product. So in the next class what we'll do, we have to implement which method? Get underscore what? Entity. Okay. What is the signature? What is the function model you have to call for this? What is the function we have to call? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore get underscore what? Detail. Okay, what is the signature of this function module? It takes what? Product ID as what? Input. Okay, so the validation will be done at what? Function module level only. We need not worry about that. If the product ID is available only, if the product is available, then only it will return what? The product header data. It will return the product header data. Okay, am I clear? If it is not available, it is going to return with something else. Okay, we have to check this particular return status and you have to do it. Yeah, Master, what is the question?
Uh,
Ma-
sir,
Yeah. Hmm.
my question is, sir, any validation is possible? In case in the report, so many validation are there. Validation is possible for the OData?
See, why do we validate? First of all, to check whether it is a valid data or not. Okay, so here,
Yes, yes. Uh,
here, see, the understanding should be like this. First of all, for this particular method, are we passing any parameter? No, no. Okay, what is the
no.
logic we wrote in this? We are directly calling the function model. Are you passing any input parameters to this function model? No, no. It is
No.
returning me what? List of what product details. Yes or no? Okay. So there is nothing to validate here. We have to just call the function model which will return me the internal table. So this is nothing but a validation only. Now what I am doing here, if it is not initial means if it is having the data, then only do the mapping. This is nothing but a kind of validation. Okay.
So actually I'm asking any message, any customization
Ah,
message.
yes, 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 yes. Going forward, we will see how to flash our own messages.
Okay, okay.
Yes, possible. Possible. Everything is possible. Whatever you are able to do it in normal ABAP, because this is also ABAP only, ABAP coding only. Everything is possible. But we should know what parameters we have to use. As of now, I'm using only one parameter. Like this, we have many parameters here. Every parameter will have some purpose. So if you want to map your user-defined exception message, yes, we can map. We can return that particular user-defined messages. Abhishek, what is the doubt? Yeah, come see. First of all, what you have to understand is we don't have any control now. See, if you observe this, suppose if you take this context only, I want to implement this method get entity. Okay, 1 second. I'll right click on this, see what is happening. When I say go to ABAP workbench, it is saying not yet been implemented. Continue, continue. Where it is taking the control directly to what? Data provider extension class now. It is not taking the control to what data provider class. Okay, so that's what I've shown here. Suppose if I double click on this method here, product set underscore get underscore entity, what is the message I got? Method so and so is implemented in the class what so on data provider class. So already there is implementation available. Okay, what is the principle of polymorphism? If you take any object-oriented language, Java, .NET, ABAP, whatever it is, polymorphism is what? Without disturbing the functionality of what? Superclass. This is nothing but superclass here. Data product class is superclass. Without disturbing the functionality of the superclass, we need to plug the additional functionality. How do you plug the additional functionality? By redefining the method. No, no. See, that's what I said. Don't try to understand the logic which is written by SAP. Not required, first of all. Not required for us. Okay. What you are doing here, we are redefining the method. We are redefining the method. How you are redefining here? If you put the cursor, you have to click on what redefine method. Okay. In the data product extension class, you are redefining. If you observe here, that's what I have not commented here. What is the purpose of superclass means? Again, go back to object-oriented principles in ABAP. What is the principle? Whenever we redefine any superclass method inside the subclass, it is recommended. It is recommended to call what? Superclass functionality. How do you call? By calling what? Super keyword. Okay, you have to uncomment this. Understood? So what it will do now? It will call what? Superclass functionality. What is the logic written by it is not our edict. We cannot understand first of all. Okay, so when this logic gets executed, along with this logic, superclass logic also gets executed. Understood? So don't think that everything is available in the subclass. There is some logic available in the superclass also. That's why they are recommending to call what? Superclass implementation by using what? Super keyword. Abhishek, is it clear? Okay, we have written the logic according to our requirement, but SAP has already written some logic. There would be some purpose. Okay, we should not understand and we cannot understand. We cannot understand. You cannot understand. I cannot understand. Our job is only to call what super class functionality. That is done by using what super keyword, and that is also a recommendation. If you take Java context, as per my knowledge, it is compulsory to call the super class implementation. But in case of ABAP perspective, it is only what optional. Whether you want to call or don't call, it is our wish. Developer choice. Okay. So as of now, I'm not calling because there is some other concept or exception that I have not discussed so far. That's the reason I'm just commenting it. Okay, but the general recommendations you have to call it. Any other doubts?
मेरा हाँ सर मेरे को अभी कोर्स कंटेंट नहीं मतलब अभी नहीं मिला मेरे को actually.
What's contents? I told Ayub to send
हाँ
to everyone. He has not sent it. Okay, I'll remind today. He will send it today, or else I will only send it to everyone. Yeah, Maslan. What is the doubt in this mapping? I opened the earlier project. This is the mapping I have done. Maslan, what is the doubt in this? I opened this particular mapping part. Yes, obviously, na. Yes, under service implementation, under what? Entity set. Okay, right click on that particular step, say map to data source. You'll provide the function model name. Function model will be available in the right hand side. Left hand side will be your entity set. So we should have the knowledge which property we have to map. Just like that, we should not map. Okay, we have to understand the signature of the function model. Okay, what is the signature here? This function is taking the product ID as input. So in our case, I have to map this input parameter product ID to this one. Drag and drop one. And this is my return data, header data. In this, I am interested in what? Name and what? Description. So I am doing that map. So you can see the arrow pointer here. This indicates what? Input. This indicates what? Return values, output. Done? Okay, so next class again will be on Monday. We'll be implementing the other steps also. This is little complex, not complex, lengthy I can say. Create operation and update operation is important. It is a little lengthy process, so we'll discuss that in the next class. Done? That is on Monday we'll discuss. And I have shared the recording to everyone. Hope everyone has received it. Material and recording I have shared with everyone. Course contents I'll try to share today. Sure then. So I'm minding off. We'll again continue on what? Monday. Okay.